Hello everyone, I hope you're doing really well. Today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the story that we read in this week's service called Rufus and His Angry Tail. So in the story, Rufus started off very happy playing his horn and his tail was wagging happily. Now if you have a dog or a cat at home, I'm sure that you will know when they're happy and you'll know when perhaps they're a little bit sad or they're a bit scared or maybe they're feeling a little bit angry. And you can tell this through their body language, just like Rufus was showing in the story. When Rufus started to get a little bit angry, his tail started to change. So it started to bristle and it started to prickle and it started to shake. And Rufus tried his best. He tried to walk away from the situation to try and calm himself down, but the situation just kept following and it kept popping up, and his friend just kept following him to make her mud pies and to sell her mud pies near where Rufus was. And this made him very angry in the story. And it got to the point where he then just exploded. He couldn't hold it in any longer and he shouted at her, he pushed her, and that was really unkind. It upset his friend. It could have hurt her when he pushed her, but just his words alone hurt her and made her a little bit upset. Rufus then took the time out to think about his anger and he prayed and he asked for peacefulness, and this really helped. He was then able to come out of the water and speak to his friend in a calm manner, and they ended up playing together and were very happy. But I just wanted to speak to you about that today because I'd like you to have a think, and perhaps you'd like to pause the video here and just think about what makes you angry and how do you react when you are angry. So I'd like you to just pause the video, have a little think about that. So you can pause now. Okay, welcome back. So hopefully you were able to pause there and you had a little think about what makes you angry and perhaps how you react to that. Okay, everybody feels anger at some point, whether you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 30, 50, we all feel anger, doesn't matter our age, and it is absolutely normal to feel that way. Okay, it's an emotion that we've been given to feel, but what's important is then how we deal with that anger. And after you watch this video today, I'd like you to, if you have time, just to go and write down 3 ways that you could deal with anger. So what are you going to do the next time you feel angry? And it may not be anytime soon. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow that you feel angry. It could be next month. It could be further down along the line. But when that feeling bubbles up inside of you, instead of making it build up until it bursts, I'd like you to write down 3 things that you could do to help you deal with that anger. Perhaps you'll find out some tips throughout this video as well. So sometimes we feel angry, as I said, for different reasons. You could sometimes feel angry because perhaps you're just a bit tired and you've had a long day at school. You had to work really hard, and learning those times tables sometimes can be tricky. But maybe you're just tired and somebody is annoying you. You want to be left alone and they're annoying you, so you feel a bit angry and perhaps you shout at them. And that is a way of showing your frustration and your anger. But if you let that build up inside, it can burst out in a horrible way. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Sometimes you can also feel angry if somebody says something unkind to you. So if someone is unkind to you, it can make you feel upset. And sometimes that upset turns into anger and you want to react. But that's not the good thing. That's not the best thing to do. And you can also feel angry if you don't get your way. You might stomp your feet, walking around stomping your feet, having a little bit of a tantrum. But again, that's normal to feel that way. It's just how we react that's important. And what I'd like you to think about today is all of those things I mentioned and more. When we feel them up inside of ourselves, like Rufus and like I mentioned, it gets to the point where you just want to burst. So a bit like a balloon. If I was to fill this balloon with all those angry emotions, if you think about all of those emotions, as I'm blowing up the balloon, I want you to shout at the screen and tell me all of those things that you thought about when you paused that perhaps make you a bit angry. So as I'm blowing the balloon up, pretend that I'm putting all of those emotions into the balloon. Okay, so we have a big balloon now. Hopefully you will be able to mention a few of the things that perhaps make you feel a little bit angry, and imagine that they're inside this balloon. Now at the moment I'm holding the balloon, so I'm bottling up all of that anger. I'm not letting it out. I haven't spoken to anybody. I haven't tried to do anything to deal with it. I'm holding that anger in. Okay? And then what happens if the next day something else happens and more anger is put inside that balloon? The balloon has got even bigger. It's kind of hard to fit it on the screen with my head. But if I allowed that balloon and all that anger to keep building up inside, what would happen think about it. What would happen if I kept blowing and blowing this balloon up without letting anything out? What is going to happen? Hopefully you said, or you're thinking, the balloon is going to pop. And that is a bit like when you burst, you explode. All of that emotion comes out and you're shouting, you're throwing things, you're being really angry. And nobody wants to feel that way. And nobody wants you to feel that way. But if I was to be very careless and not control the balloon, another way that anger could come out is if I was just to let go and let that anger out. So it's gone. But as you can see there, I had to dodge the balloon because all of that anger was coming out and it was flying at me. So, but perhaps that's not the best way to let it out either. So I'm going to fill up another balloon and let's see this time how we can release that anger. Okay, so now I have a balloon filled with all of those angry emotions that perhaps sometimes we feel. But I'm going to release that anger in a different way. So remember, I mentioned it is okay to feel these things, but what is important is how we deal with them. So I'm going to say a few things that perhaps you could do to release that anger. And I'm going to release, each time I mention those things, I'm going to release some of that anger. So perhaps I'm feeling a bit angry, so I'm going to go for a walk. And that calms me down just a little bit. But I'm still feeling a little bit angry. So I'm just going to read a book just to calm me down. I'm going to read my Bible, read a few verses. The Bible mentions that we should be slow to anger. So I'm going to release out some more of that anger very slowly. Still feeling a little bit angry, still got some of that emotion. I'm going to talk to somebody. Perhaps you're at school, you want to talk to a teacher that you trust. Perhaps you're at home, talk to one of your parents. Tell them that you're feeling angry. Perhaps you don't know why, but it's okay to just say, Mum, I'm feeling a little bit angry. I'm not sure why. Could we talk about it? And I know that your parents, Mum, Dad, even an uncle or an aunt, grandparents, they will be happy to sit and talk with you. And then you release some more of that anger. Perhaps you just want to have some quiet time to yourself. You go into your room and you sit and you pray. You talk to God, like Rufus did when he dove into the stream and he prayed and asked for that peacefulness. Perhaps that's what you may choose to do as well. And you release some of that anger as well. And as you can see, I still have that balloon in my hand because I released that anger slowly. So unlike before, when I just let go of the balloon and it went all over the place, going crazy, or I continued to add in that emotion and the balloon eventually would have popped, I've allowed my emotions to come out slowly. I've had self-control over my anger. And that is what I'd like you to think of. It's not an easy thing to control, and we're not going to just get the hang of it straight away. But taking little steps and thinking about those things will eventually help us to have a control over not just anger, all the emotions that we feel sometimes that can upset us. So as I mentioned earlier, I would like you, once you finish watching this video, to go and write down 3 things that you think you could do if you're feeling a little bit angry that would help to slowly release those emotions instead of building them up until you pop like that balloon. And I'd also like you to remember, it's very important to walk away from situations that make you angry. Like Rufus tried, he tried his best. And if that fails, pray. Talk to an adult. Go for that walk, okay? Read that book if you're still feeling all those emotions. Don't forget, God is always there to listen. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.